Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Amanda and I am a neurodivergent woman. I have autism, ADHD, aphantasia, and a rare memory disorder called SDAM. So in this video today, I want to talk a little bit about some of the terminology around autism. In 2013, the DSM-5, which is the diagnostic tool for autism, got updated, and the terms Asperger's got taken out of the DSM-5, and levels got put in. Right now we have levels 1, 2, and 3 for autism, and they are related to support needs. There's a lot of talk in the autism community about further refining what the definition of autism and what it means is, but that's currently what it is right now. And you may have heard the terms high functioning and low functioning also kind of like tossed around when you hear the words autism. In the past, a lot of times the word high functioning went with Asperger's, and then mid and low functioning would be like autism spectrum, or that person is somewhere on the spectrum. And the couple of things to know about that. One, Asperger's has been taken out and put in as just autism spectrum disorder. There's also a lot of negative connotation and ties around the doctor who was Asperger's. He did a lot of really horrific studies on autistic people back during Nazi Germany. So it is understandable that the autism community doesn't want to really have anything to do with that term anymore. Although there is a lot of people who were diagnosed with Asperger's like in the 90s, and without the knowledge of, Asperger, where it came from, and their identity, because autism is like, a lot of people want first person language. I am autistic. It is a part of who I am. And if you were diagnosed as Asperger's, it became a lot of people's identity. And so it is okay and valid for them still to identify with the word Asperger's. Like, we're not going to take that away. Like, that's how they've identified, and, that's fine. But going forward, for most people, the term Asperger's is being put aside. So as far as high functioning and low functioning labels go, these have been determined to be detrimental in many ways. And so the current is on support needs, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But the reason why we moved away from high functioning and low functioning labels is it has a lot to do with masking too, because before, well, really, to boil it down, high functioning autistic person just really means, oh, this is a high masking autistic person. This person who has high functioning autism can mask and act neurotypical. They don't cause as much trouble or problems as somebody who is low functioning. I mean, that's not a definition you're going to see written down in any medical journals, but that is basically kind of what it boils down to. Also, people who would be nonverbal autistic often got lumped into low functioning. The problem again with this is there are a lot of people who are nonverbal who are very, very smart, brilliant, capable human beings, but they are told they are low functioning just because they are not speaking. But with accommodations, whether it is communication boards, there's a word for the type of communication board a lot of autistic people use, I can't think of right now. And some autistic people are able to type if they're nonverbal. There's different accommodations. And it autism and IQ are not collapsed. There's a whole nother kind of conversation. Apparently, IQ is not a very great test either. I don't know the research on that. I do know that right now, as part of most people's autism evaluations, an IQ test is still administered. So a lot of autistic people are actually like have very, very high IQs. Like mine was well above average when I did my evaluation. um, there is a pretty high comorbid um, comorbidity of autism and intellectual disabilities. A lot of people don't like the word comorbidity either, but it just means that somebody who has more than one diagnosis. So there is a high number of autistic people who also have an intellectual disability. Autism itself is a developmental disability. Our brains are wired differently. It is not, autism itself is not related to intelligence. And just to be clear, having low intelligence doesn't mean that you should be considered low functioning or anything like that. So that's why we are, as a community, trying to move away and, medically speaking, have already moved away from those labels. Still in like the outside spheres, you know, people who are starting to learn about autism, when I first started to learn more about it myself, we still hear those terms being thrown around of high functioning and low functioning. One of the reasons why they're very, very harmful is because if you get labeled as a low functioning autistic person, I mean, think how that would feel if if you were told, oh, by the way, you're low functioning. Like that already just, that doesn't give you access to living your best life in a way. I don't know. I'm not saying that well, but catch my drift on that. But if you're told, oh, high functioning, people are like, oh, okay, it's fine. You're high functioning. So you don't have too much of autism, which is so invalidating. And it's also harmful because, again, like I said, it's tied to masking. And a high functioning autistic person, when you see them out and about and they are masking well, yay for you in society, but then you don't get to see them, me, on our low functioning days where we are in burnout and completely overwhelmed and having meltdowns and shutdowns and things like that. Support needs for an autistic person can change from day to day. It can depend on things going on internally. It can go on sensory input from, outside stimulus. It can be affected by the weather. On sunny days, I tend to have better functionality. On gloomy, cloudy, rainy days, sometimes my energy in general is just a lot lower, and I can be more affected by, different stimulation. High functioning, low functioning. Okay, the levels. So right now in the DSM-5, we have levels 1, 2, and 3, and it's related to support needs. So somebody who is level 1 autistic, it's basically said that this person can function without much support. Level 2 would need a little bit more support, and level 3 is probably somebody who needs a full-time caregiver. The problem is they're really, like, I was handed a diagnosis, level 1, and then boom, there was no education on even what support or accommodations are needed. Level 1 is low support needs. That doesn't mean I don't need any support. Like, as an autistic person, I'm learning that I could actually very well use accommodations and support. And I don't know yet what is even available to me. What I know that there's some things that I can self accommodate for. So, like, when I go to loud, noisy places, I'm putting in earplugs and I'm trying to remove certain, stimuli that are overwhelming around the house, and I can control the lights that, might be bothering me. So, there's some of those things that I can self do, but like outside the home, I don't know what accommodations would even be available to me. My children are also diagnosed level 1, which again would mean low support needs, but they were also pretty high masking. And my son, we are actually working to train a service dog because his support needs really are a lot even higher than my daughter Izzy's. So these support levels just aren't really clear. And one of the things that I have been processing and grappling with is the fact that, like, as an autistic person, I've never really held a job. I had always thought that it was because I didn't want to or didn't have to. Luckily, the way that my life just played out, I after college got married, and then I had a couple of weird little odd part-time jobs here and there before I had kids, but then I became a stay-at-home mom and I haven't worked since then. But every time I think about going to work, the idea of it is just so incredibly overwhelming. And I know that if I was to try to sustain a job, I know the challenges that it would be for me to be in a, like, almost any kind of job. I never really had to face this because it isn't some getting a job isn't something that I actually ever really had to confront, because I was a stay-at-home mom and I was homeschooling my kids and I was being a productive member of society. Yay. And every once in a while in our family, conversations would come up about, like, whether or not I wanted to work. And it was just like, the value that I provide for my family being a stay-at-home mom is a lot. And I'm very lucky that my husband recognizes that and appreciates it. And so I never really had to kind of like confront the idea that no, if I actually did have to work, I could, because again, I am high functioning autistic, but it would be at the detriment to my mental health. Having to go to a job and report in on a schedule that is not my own, that I am creating, um, and doing tasks at a rate that doesn't allow for my brain to process at the speed that it does. Like, just literally everything about working would lead to burnout very quickly. And it is not surprising that I have talked to so many autistic people who are in either burnout or in poverty levels because of the struggle of having to work. So there definitely needs to be more education and accommodations for autistic, because the thing is, like, I could work if there were more accommodations and education out there in the world. Because again, high IQ, autistic people are really smart, but we just process and deal with things so differently. Like, if I was at an office job, for instance, and there was a way that I could do the workflow in my own time and schedule. But anyway, I don't know. The thing about it that is the most frustrating thing for me is that I have a very strong desire to make a difference in the world, and I want to make a difference for other people. And that's why I'm very, very thankful that I have the opportunity to be a stay-at-home mom and, help raise the next generation of autistic people, that they don't have to mask. And in that, I'm also hoping to add my voice to the many, many other autistic people who are creating content like this to help educate other autistic people that are newly finding out about their autism, also family members and just community. I want bosses and teachers. Like, we just need to get the word out about how autistic and ADHD brains are so fundamentally different than the way society is set up. So anyway, I'm going to leave the video right there. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe, leave comments down below to add to the discussion, and I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye.